So we thought we'd do something a little bit different. So just the other day we hit 1,000 subscribers, which was amazing. And we've had a couple of comments on the channel in the past about wanting to see our Blu-ray collections. Maybe now because we've been filming, usually we have a green screen behind us, but under coronavirus, you can actually see our Blu-ray collections behind us and behind Simon as well. Voila. As we've got to 1,000 subscribers, we've got something else we're doing also in a few days. We thought we'd do a couple of extra videos just to, a bit of fun, just to say thank you and all that.
Yeah.
So we thought today we're going to talk about our Blu-ray collections. And we have decided we've chosen a couple of notable mentions of the films within our Blu-ray collection. But then we could also maybe talk a little bit about the collection as a whole.
Well, as you can see, there's lots to talk about. I mean, that's just what you can see in the picture is a small section, and there's another one of these shelves on the other side of the room. What I will say is we're on Instagram, and at the moment, every Sunday, I'm posting a Shelfie Sunday, which is very exciting. And as you can see, the shelf is divided into these little sections. So every Sunday, I'll post a little section with what's in that bit. I collect lots of different stuff. I love Arrow releases like most people do. Fortunately, I've got a Region A compatible player, so I can import stuff from like Screen Factory, and I've got a 3D telly, so I've got lots of 3D releases. I know that's not like the cool thing anymore. There's some movies that just it's unnecessary, but no, I think you get a good 3D movie, it does, it can pull you in. I haven't upgraded to 4K yet. I do have some 4K discs. I think I've got Predator and Big Lebowski where they've been remastered, but only the 4K disc has that remastered version on, and I just chuck those in my Xbox One and they'll play through the telly. So I don't get the 4K picture, but I do get like the remastered picture.
Are your films alphabetized or?
They are alphabetized, yes. I start with numbers first.
Yeah.
So like, what have we got? Like 28 Days Later and things like that, up the top. And I got a smattering of Bond films up there because, where do you put those? Do you put them under B for Bond? So I just put them up there with the numbers for 007. So I've got some of these things which are full of DVDs and which don't come out very often, to be honest. Back in the day when I was first collecting those, I had some sort of weird system where I'd have like genre, and then in with that I'd mix sort of director. It made sense to me, but not to anybody else. I moved house and someone helped pack them, and they just were chucking DVDs in boxes until it was just a complete mess. And I was like, you know what? There's no way I can recover my original categorization. So I just thought alphabetize is the way to go. I don't get a lot of time to watch the films, let alone special features, but I do like a nice feature-packed edition.
My DVD collection probably looked like your Blu-ray collection. I used to buy everything on DVD, and I had loads and loads of DVDs. And in kind of crazy, I kind of messed around with like genres and then directors and British films and Australian films, and then the kind of everything else was American films was like in with everything else. I had loads of DVDs. When I converted to Blu-ray, I was like, I thought, you know what? I don't want to buy everything else. I don't want to buy everything I had on DVD on Blu-ray. I don't want to do that. It's just
that's what I told myself I wasn't going to do.
I've been very good. I told myself I wasn't going to do that, and so far I've been quite good. And what I did decide I was going to do, because around that time, places like Arrow, distribution companies were more the thing. I think because obviously, DVD was there, and then the internet comes along and everything goes streaming. As people stop buying DVDs or Blu-rays, but then you get these amazing distribution companies that come along and they do these special editions. So I kind of very early on thought, you know what, I'm just going to buy special edition films. I'm going to every time I buy Blu-ray, it's going to be one that I know I love, or not always one that I love, but it's going to be from a special edition company. So a lot of my films, most of my films are by Arrow or Criterion, BFI, places like that. So I have mine, and maybe a bit geeky, I have them in the... they are categorised within the distribution.
It looks very pretty just from here.
Thanks. So I've got a couple of releases from Second Run. They do films from kind of around the world. I've got a couple of Czech films by them. And then I've got one film from 88 Films, got Delirium, 1987's Delirium. And then I got then my 101 films, and then a couple of releases from AX1, a couple of Wim Wenders films from them. And then I've got my Arrow collection, so I start with Arrow Academy. Oh, there's an Arrow video there. Theatre of Blood, that shouldn't be there. But the Arrow Academy, and then I got my Arrow video films, and then I've got BFI, and then the BFI flip side, and then one film from Cult Films. I've got Suspiria by them. Then my Criterion collection, Then Curzon Artificial Eye come next. I've only got a few of them. They're all the Tarkovsky films from them. And then you've got Eureka, Masters of Cinema. And then Indicator, really great series, Indicator. And then I've got the HMV Premium Collection. And then 3 films from Signal One as well. And then I kind of go into everything else. And I don't have the kind of standard releases, I don't have a huge amount of standard releases. And again, most of them are kind of older films, they're favourite films of mine. So I've, got like Back to the Future in there, and A Breakfast Club, and some guilty pleasures, Young Guns. I love colour, and I love design, and I love how things go together. And obviously the spines of these special editions, they just look great together. So I may be a bit geeky, but that's how I and of course they are in alphabetized as well. So you've got Arrow before BFI, Criterion. Of course. On to some notable mentions. So we've each chosen a couple or 2 or 3 from the collection that we have. So do you want to go ahead and name your first one?
My first pick off my shelf is the Scream Factory release of Army of Darkness. I mean, this has been released countless times on DVD and Blu-ray, but this one is particularly special because when I first saw this film, it was on VHS, and in the UK we got like the international cut, which had, on VHS, it had a different ending to what was in the cinema, and that was the sort of the downbeat ending where he accidentally goes too far forward in time. Yeah. So that was the version that I was familiar with and, watched over and over again on VHS. But after that, it was the international cut, which just wasn't available on anything. Every DVD that I bought, it had the director's cut or the US theatrical cut. The whole thing at the end with Esmar, all the references like Hail to the King and things like that. I didn't get that. I was like, where's that from? He doesn't say that in the film because I'd never seen that ending because it wasn't on the VHS that we had here. So it wasn't until I bought the DVD and watched the original US theatrical cut. I was like, oh, I see. That's where it's from. But I never quite enjoyed it as much as that international cut. It's just got some different takes with what I think are funnier lines. The fight in the windmill, I think, is slightly different and flows better, in my opinion anyway. Though this restores that. I mean, there are other releases now. I think that Germany and France, they both have that cut as well. The only thing that's missing is it still doesn't have that downbeat ending. It has the Esmar ending on that international cut, which is a little bit disappointing. The ending is on this set, but it's separately. You can't watch it at the end of that version. But it's as close as I can get at the moment to that original version that I watched on VHS. So that's why I'm particularly fond of this one, and it looks great. It's absolutely packed with features. It's got 4 different cuts of the film on it, and it looks gorgeous as well.
And of course, we spoke about it because we did the Evil Dead trilogy, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I mean, I probably went on about the international cut on that video as well, probably. So I'm just repeating myself. It's a particular favourite I watch whenever I can because I just love this film so much.
That's a great choice. So I should go with my first one. So my first one is from the aforementioned BFI Flipside, one of my favourite. So the BFI Flipside, if you don't know, release kind of obscure British films, and all their releases are British. The BFI normal collection, their normal releases, they release films from all over the world, but the BFI Flipside is specifically British obscure films. And in fact, the first one they ever released, we did do on the channel, was The Bed Sitting Room. So I've chosen this film, which is Psychomania. Not for any special reason because of the disc itself. I just love this film. I remember watching this on TV years and years ago. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. No, I've heard of it. It's
so much fun, and it's weirdly because when I was a teenager, one of my favourite films as a teenager was The Lost Boys, and this is kind of like the British Lost Boys. It's basically about a gang of kids who ride motorbikes who decide that they want to live forever, so they all die in crazy ways and then come back as the living dead. So it's basically like The Lost Boys without the cool soundtrack. Although this has a really great soundtrack as well. And it's got people like, Hollywood greats like George Saunders, and then Beryl Reid is in it, and Nicky Henson, who sadly passed away last year. I just love this film, and when the Flipside released it, I mean, weirdly, it's not maybe as obscure as some of the other BFI Flipside. This has been out. I had this on DVD. I think I had it on VHS, or at least I had it recorded off the telly. So I was very happy when the Flipside put this one out, because it's it's like it's not really a guilty pleasure, because I like this kind of cinema anyway, but it's one of my kind of go-to crazy, obscure, insanity flicks. So yeah, that was my choice. BFI Flipside, that one.
Cool. I had to pick something Arrow. I mean, I've got so many, I wasn't sure what I was going to pick. I mean, The Thing, RoboCop, Reanimator. I couldn't decide. But then this set is particularly nice, which is Hellraiser, The Scarlet Box, which obviously has Hellraisers 1 to 3, which, let's face it, are the only 3 worth bothering with. So yeah, and it's just really nicely put together, really solid box, and you've got loads and loads of stuff in it, and you've got books and obviously the movies, big thick hardbound book, all the stuff, and even in the back, even in the bottom of the box, I don't know if you can see that.
Nice.
So
nice. Hellraiser 1 and 2 are phenomenal films in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hellraiser 3, it's got some good stuff in
not
there.
So much.
It's not so much.
I mean, compared to 4, 5,
compared
6,
to the rest,
and 7, or however far they go, yeah, it's.
Can you still buy that box set?
It was a limited edition. You can get it second hand, obviously, but
yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked. I would assume that it probably goes for more than what it originally cost. I mean, they re-released them like in a normal box without all the goodies in it, which is something that Arrow quite often do.
So obviously BFI Flipside was my first one. Then I went with Indicator. And I didn't realise, I was actually watching an interview with some of the guys from Indicator, and I think a lot of those guys came from BFI Flipside. So
oh, right.
Indicator, they don't do so many British films, they do American films as well. But again, they release, not completely obscure, but quite a few films that haven't seen the light of day for a long time. This is one called Absolution, which I'm just mentioning because when I picked this up, I'd never even heard of this. This was a complete blind buy. I mean, so it's written by Anthony Schaefer, who famously wrote the screenplay for The Wicker Man and Sleuth, the Michael Caine film. It's got Richard Burton in it. It's got Billy Connolly in it. It's got Di Bradley, who was the little boy in Kes. And there's this actor Dominic Gard, who when I was watching it, I was like, who is that guy? I know that guy from somewhere. And he was in Picnic at Hanging Rock, which is one of my favourite films as well. Everything about this film was just amazing. And in the Indicator, put it out, and I thought, well, that looks cool. Picked it up, and I watched it the other day, and it completely blew me out of the water. It just, I love it. Blind buy, what is it? And then it just completely sells you. This film was incredible, and it was haunting. There's some great stuff on the Blu-ray as well. There's some interviews and a couple of documentaries about, well, it's mainly interviews actually. And of course I got the limited edition. The nice thing with Indicator is they start with a limited edition, so they do 3,000 or so with a limited edition, and then it just goes over to the standard edition. I literally just watched it the other day as a blind buy and absolutely loved it. Very recommend that one, definitely, if you haven't seen it.
I kind of cheated with the next one because it's they're kind of themed. It's all 4. Which way up? Should I put that way up? There you go. So the 4 John Carpenter releases that Studio Canal put out. I think it was last year. I think so. 2019. So yeah, you got Prince of Darkness and Escape from New York,
Right.
The Fog, and They Live. I mean, I think when we did They Live, I think I might have already. I had this.
You did.
So we did talk about it. But yeah, all 4 editions. But basically, they're all restored. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't got a 4K player, but these sets which had booklets and they've got the soundtrack and loads of special features have the 4K disc in it. So one day when I've got a 4K TV, they'll come in handy. But they're very Arrow-esque because they've got the booklet, poster, and then you've got postcards, and then and it's got. Did I say they've got soundtracks as well? And of course, John Carpenter usually does his own soundtracks, and they're usually pretty great. So really nice set of releases there. Bit of a cheat, I know, but I thought I can't just pick one. I've got to pick all 4 because they're all very, very similar. I have to confess that Prince of Darkness was a blind buy. I'd never seen it. I haven't got around to watching it yet. I don't know if it's supposed to be that great. Have you ever seen Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, I have seen a long time ago. It's all right. It's okay. It's one of the poor ones, but I think it's notable for some stuff in it. Yeah.
I would say the strongest out of them, personally, is probably Escape from New York. I mean, I haven't watched The Fog for a long time.
That's a good film. It's quite freaky, actually. It's got some good stuff in it. So my last one I've chosen. So this is a Eureka, Masters of Cinema. I chose this one kind of for a specific reason, and that's because this is the first special edition I ever bought. So it has a little place in my heart for that, and also for what the film is. So it's Repo Man. the great Alex Cox film. I absolutely adore this film. This is the film that I saw. Again, I saw this on TV many, many years ago, and it just blew me away. And it really, this film introduced me to kind of independent cinema and took me away from, I grew up like a lot of us did with Hollywood and, films like Back to the Future and Ghostbusters and Star Wars and all those, action, Terminator and all that kind of stuff. And they are all great. I mean, I suppose Terminator is maybe more independent at the time. Same year as this, actually, 1984. But this was real kind of, on the fly, independent student, straight out of college, making his first film, kind of cinema. And what I love about this film and Alex Cox in general is he always he loves cinema. I mean, also Alex Cox, of course, was on Movie Drome, which is kind of what inspired. Well, I loved Movie Drone growing up. It was obviously started with Alex Cox, and then Mark Cousins took it over. Alex Cox loves cinema. He's a bit like Tarantino, but I think I prefer Alex Cox films. Although Tarantino and Alex Cox and this film are quite there's links there if you know that. This is just a phenomenal film. I absolutely adore this film. I watched it again the other night. I don't know how many times I've seen this film. I think this is possibly, while it's maybe not my favourite film ever made, I think it's the one I've seen the most. I have seen this in so many different formats over the years, and it's the one film I think I've read the most about. I got this great book, X Films by Alex Cox, which is an incredible read. He's one of those kind of writers that he just talks so much about cinema, and he's like on like every bit of special edition on this, talking about his films and talking about other films. He hasn't made a huge amount of films over the years, and he's never really had a huge amount of success. I suppose maybe Sid and Nancy possibly is his most mainstream work, maybe. And that's a great film too. Emilio Estevez in this is great. It's got Harry Dean Stanton. Have you seen this? Aretha?
I have. I mean, I think I had it on VHS a long time ago.
Right.
I didn't love it,
Okay.
but I can't remember. It's so long since I've seen it. I don't really remember anything about it, to be honest. I remember it's weird. I need to watch it again, I think, because I don't remember enough about it.
Growing up, I was very into kind of punk music, hardcore music. And this obviously has this great hardcore soundtrack, hardcore punk soundtrack, E-pop's on the soundtrack. I mean, it's the kind of the quintessential cult movie.
Yeah.
And it still holds up today. I think it's just a really exciting film. If you like these kind of films and you don't know this one, go and watch this one, because I just think it's a kind of a small masterpiece in its own right. Great, so that's kind of gone on for quite a while. So,
Yep.
so we will say goodbye. But again, this is really just here to say thank you to all the 1,000 subscribers, and just a little bit of fun. We'd go through our Blu-ray collections. And as always, if you enjoyed our video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button there, and don't forget to push that bell for notifications. There's some other videos to check out over here. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And join us again soon for another video.